In ancient times, cities were built in the most incredible and inaccessible places. Some of them are known as cities of the sky because of their extraordinary location either on a hill or on a mountaintop, which exploited the natural defenses of the terrain. In some cases, the ancient inhabitants settled in these areas because of their strategic advantage, but in other cases, for symbolic reasons, to be as close as possible to the sky, the place of origin of the gods that in many cases influenced the ancient cultures. At the other end of the world, on the shores of the Dead Sea, there's one of these cities of heaven, the ancient fortress of Masada. On the summit plateau, it rises almost half a kilometer above the western shore of the Dead Sea, making this an almost impregnable place for a siege. The first settlements of Masada date back thousands of years. At first, nomadic tribes had taken advantage of the peculiarities of the rocks and caves, but it was not until the Jewish dynasty of the Hasmoneans in the 1st century BC that a proper city was founded on the hill. Shortly thereafter, with Roman rule in Judea under Herod the Great, who was proclaimed king of the Jews by the Senate as a vassal of the Roman Empire, Masada took on its distinctive appearance. Herod the Great fortified Masada with the intention of protecting himself in case of revolt, and thus the city became a palace fortress of the king, a symbol of the ancient Jewish kingdom of Israel. Built by Herod, the fortress is a marvel of ancient engineering, with walls, defense towers, supply stores, barracks, armories, and residences for members of the royal family. Particularly noteworthy are the water storage systems that serve to supply the inhabitants, including the luxurious pools, baths, and gardens of the main palace. This defied the low rainfall that this place is exposed to in the middle of the desert. Herod needed plenty of water for his family and servants, and from the year 6 AD the number of inhabitants grew with the arrival of Roman legion, so he spared no resources. It has been calculated that if all the cisterns had been filled even halfway, there would have been enough water to supply thousands of people for 10 years. For the development of the cisterns were used the empty cavities under the ground, which were created during the extraction of the rock, which was used for the construction of the buildings. Herod designed a majestic place. He wanted to be surrounded by luxury in case he was forced to flee Judea. However, when the revolt broke out, Herod could not retreat to his palace in Masada because in 66 AD the extremist Jewish group of the Sicarii captured the city and the revolt against the empire began. During the years of war against Rome, the extremists who occupied Masada modified the fortress and rebuilt it for the fight against the Romans. Masada became a symbol of rebellion during the war and hosted a large number of different Jewish groups from all over the country, including the Samaritans, a community of Jewish descent considered impure by Orthodox Jews, and the Essenes, who settled in the Qumran region not far from Masada. The rebel groups were eventually defeated after a siege by the Roman Empire under the command of the general Flavius Silva, but Masada became a legend, a symbol of resistance to the Roman Empire. The ruins that still stand on the top of the plateau are silent witnesses of this glorious past. Another incredible city in the sky is located in North America, a settlement on a prominent mesa that rises more than 110 meters above the desert. This city was named after the indigenous Acoma tribe that inhabits it. According to the tribal elders, its name means place that has always been there, while outsiders think it means people of the White Rock. The amazing Acoma settlement has been inhabited since at least the 11th century, making it, along with the Hopi territories, one of the first continuously inhabited areas in the United States. Its strategic location has protected the tribe from attacks by neighboring Navajo and Apache for more than 1,200 years. The Acoma tribe is believed to be descended from the Anasazi, the Mogollon and other ancient peoples, but their origins are even more mysterious. According to the oral traditions of the Acoma people, their ancestors rose from inside the earth. They had to pass through a small hole from where they moved their naked and fragile bodies to the surface of the earth. There they first had to accustom their eyes to the bright light outside. When the first rays of dawn were reflected on the faces of the newborns, they opened their eyes. Since then, the Acoma have a ritual custom that pays tribute to this moment, the naming ceremony of the sun child, in which the newborns are bathed in sunlight by the shaman. It's obvious that this legend refers to the moment when the Acoma came out of the underground world, after having lived for a long time in an environment where there was neither sunlight nor wind inside the earth. This story is not uncommon among the tribes of North America. Other people, such as the Hopi, refer to similar experiences. All indications are that a great catastrophe forced the ancient people to go deep into the earth. The city in the sky, Acoma, was discovered in 1540 by an expedition led by the Spanish conquistador Francisco Vázquez de Coronado. At that time, the city could not be taken, but in 1599, after only 3 days of fighting, the Spaniards conquered Acoma. Sometime later it was rebuilt, and since the settlement has been continuously inhabited to this day. The indigenous people of Acoma still live in this incredible city where their ancestors once settled. However, another mystery arises from the legends collected by the writer Jack Cutts. He tells us about the Acoma elders who told him of the existence of a city on top of the neighboring plateau. Nearly 4 kilometers from Acoma is another steep hill known as Catsimo, or Enchanted Mesa, which is said to have been inhabited in the past. According to Cutts, at the top of this mesa there are remains of a lost city that can be reached by a staircase carved into the rock. This staircase provides access to the top. It is claimed that the extent of this hill was once much greater, but on a stormy night a terrible downpour caused the sandstone rock to be eroded to the point where it collapsed and buried the entire city. According to Adolf Bandelier, a Swiss-American anthropologist famous for his studies of Native American cultures in the 18th century, Catsimo was considered one of the most imposing cliffs in the southwest. According to Bandelier, its summit was completely inaccessible. Later expeditions to Catsimo Mesa revealed that in some very distant time, some sort of culture may have actually been established on the top of the plateau. Both Acoma and Masada are examples of cities in the sky, invincible bastions. But they are not the only ones, because there are other places practically inaccessible, surrounded by a great mystery like the Sigiriya rock fortress in Sri Lanka with all its steep slopes. The Sigiriya fortress has been inhabited since prehistoric times, and on its flat summit lie the remains of an ancient complex. Or the Machu Picchu, located in the Andes of Peru, 2,430 meters above sea level. As well as the fortress Cuelap of the Chachapoyas, also in Peru, located on the summit of Cerro Barreta, 3,000 meters above sea level. We can add many more. They all make us question the true intention of its former inhabitants.